Oh, what's going on, GameLeaper? It's the Jizz, aka Coach Eeks, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the 3 best champions for each role for patch 12.5b, and these changes kind of snuck themselves onto the Rift because they got released a few days ago. So for all the details regarding the best champions, we're going to give you the rune page, the skill order, the items, and also the summoner spells to run on the best champions on the Rift. Make sure you stick around for the whole video, and if you want us to continue giving you all this information, then make sure you leave a like down below to let us know, and also consider checking out the GameLeap website in the description or comment section, because on our website GameLeap.com, our challenger players and coaches are uploading more than 50 videos a month for our subscribers, so get that exclusive access to our champion courses, guides, and high elo VOD analyses. So make sure you sign up, and let's get into the 3 best champs for each role in 12.5b. Now we're going to start in the top lane, and the 3rd best champion you guys can pick in this patch, this is Trundle. And one of the reasons Trundle is so broken is because of his split pushing power. This is why, as far as your items go, you want to be getting a Hull Breaker after your Divine Sunderer or Trinity Force. These 2 items, those are your mythic choices. And the reason Hull Breaker is so busted is because it is a massive stat stick. The HP you get, the resistances, when you're side laning on your own, it makes you a real threat. And Trundle, because of his ultimate, is certainly one of the scariest split pushers. Now to play towards this identity, this is why in your rune page, you want to be running Demolish so you can get those towers quicker, and also running Alacrity in the precision tree for the attack speed. This helps us stack lethal tempo quicker, and of course take those towers quicker. So Trundle with Ignite is the first option to consider. But a little bit better than Trundle maybe, this is Riven, the 2nd best top laner for 12.5b. And the reason Riven is here, well, she's probably going to be here indefinitely because of the 12.3 buffs to her items. Well, they were changes, but for Riven, they were buffs. More attack damage and more ability haze in pretty much every single one. So Gore Drinker, Black Cleaver, Death's Dance, more Malmortius, when those 2 stats get buffed, they just scream Riven. They are the 2 most important stats for Riven, and you can see her stats here in Diamond and above. Over 12,000 matches played with Flash and Ignite, she wins over 53% of them. That is an absurd number, so it's impossible not to have her in this video. She might take a bit of time to learn, so if you guys would like a Riven guide, which we of course can do for you, then let us know in the comment section. But the top laner who is better than Riven, this is Tryndamere, and just like Trundle with lethal tempo, you are an absolute menace in the 1v1 and in the split push. And I know this page here doesn't recommend you guys to go Hull Breaker, but trust me, if you get Hull Breaker after Greaves, Gale Force, and Avoid Quick Blades, if you get Hull Breaker as your 4th item, this is when you can really take over games, because you already have the damage at that point. You have the attack speed, the crit, and you should be able to deal enough damage to kill the targets you want to kill. It's just the Hull Breaker is so good for melee champions, and remember, it got nerfed for ranged champions, so Tryndamere is in the clear, and this item is still as busted as ever. So ultimate sustain Tryndamere with Flash and Ghost, he is the #1 top laner. Now let's head to the other solo lane here and talk about the mid lane and the 3 best mid laners for 12.5b. Now coming in at number 3, we have an attack damage mid laner, and this is Akshan. And the reason Akshan is here is not actually for the items the UGG page recommends. Well, it kind of is, but I want you guys to rush a Wit's End. Because you're going to be going against mages for the most part, rushing a Wit's End really cucks them because of the magic resistance, but it also gives Akshan on hit, attack speed, and attack damage, so you still have easily enough power in your kit to get the kills you want to get. But as far as your rune page goes, just make sure you're running Shield Bash with Bone Plating. The Shield Bash is particularly important because this is going to enhance the shield from your passive, and it makes you very hard to trade with. And another important detail is the decision whether you max your Q first, your Avenger rank, or your E or Heroic Swing. I would recommend maxing your Q first into champions you can actually poke, so close range melee champions, and maxing your E against those champions who want to play at range. They don't want you to jump on their heads, so when you do with your E, you will deal an incredible amount of damage because your Q probably isn't going to hit these long range champions. So Akshan is the 3rd best mid laner, but who's the 2nd best? Well, this is another champion beginning with the letter A, and this of course is Ahri. And despite getting nerfed, she is still one of the premier mid laners. She is just too broken ever since Riot updated her a few patches ago. The champion is just too powerful. It doesn't even matter if you're first timing her, she's so easy to pick up, and she doesn't really have any hard counters. This means you can safely blind pick her and champ select, and even if you don't do well, you bring so much utility to your team because of your charm and the Everfrost route we want to go in terms of our build. Just make sure at level 1 to start with your W, because this is a lot better for your trading because your Foxfire is now going to prioritize enemy champions, whereas your Q, well, it's pretty easy to dodge the second part of it, and it's not really going to deal that much damage. So start with your W and also take Ignite for the kill pressure, and Ahri is the 2nd best mid laner. But the best mid laner on the Rift at the moment is a champion who's honestly probably even easier to play than Ahri and actually make work, and this is Veigar. And ever since Riot buffed Veigar's Q, where it's giving you more stacks, this has accelerated Veigar's insane scaling. So instead of hitting your big late game power spike, let's say around 30 minutes, minutes, you're now hitting it like 5 minutes earlier. And of course we can all work this out. This means you're going to win more games just because you're going to be hitting harder a lot earlier. But it's still important to get the rune page right, so we want to be running Predator with Ingenious Hunter. This is going to lower the cooldown of not only Predator, but also Everfrost, which is the item we want to be getting first, because if you pair the Glaciate active in Everfrost with your Event Horizon, it means that enemy champions are going to be locked down, they cannot move, and it's not just great for you so you can land your Dark Matter and Baleful Strike, but also for your teammates. You can converge on those champions locked in the cage, and it is just such a powerful combination. So Veigar is the #1 mid laner for 12.5B. But what about the jungle? Because not much has really changed here in 12.5B, but there is a champion who is really emerging as one of the top contenders for the best jungler in the game, and this has recently been Volibear. And for Volibear, ever since the buffs at the start of this season, Volley has kind of stayed under the radar until recently, where he's been picked a lot in pro play and even banned in some games as well. This is because the champion does a lot of damage early game, he can solo dragon better than anyone else, and also his build gives him the tankiness he needs, but also the damage, because Chemtank, pair this with Deadman's Plate and the passives, you deal a ton of damage to the enemy champions. But as far as your rune page goes, just one thing here, make sure to take Celerity and Water Walking, because we want the movement speed to get around the map, and the movement speed from Celerity is also useful because getting kited, this is our big weakness. This prevents the enemy champions from achieving that as much, so make sure you run this rune page. For Volibear is certainly one of the top junglers in 12.5B, but a jungler who's very similar to Volibear is beating him to the #2 spot, and this is Hecarim, who probably does Volibear's job a little bit better because he can punish enemy champions and laners who are making mistakes because of his insane movement speed. And when you pair this with Ghost as your summoner spell, you can snowball very quickly because getting kills, well, the enemy champions are just very accessible. And the build is very similar to Volibear's as well. We want Lucidity boosts, we want Turbo Chemtank, but we do want an early tier, and we also want to build Mana Mune, which will transform into Mirror Mana once you get the stacks going. This gives you an insane amount of damage, and because we have Chemtank here, and hopefully later in the game, Death Stance, which is now blocking magic damage, maybe Force of Nature, which was also buffed recently, it makes Hecarim an absolute menace in the jungle, so he comes in at #2. But head and shoulders, and we ain't talking the shampoo, above every other jungler in the game right now in 12.5B, this is Kha'Zix, the #1. This champion, I said it yesterday, I don't know what it is, he has been broken since release, I don't think he's ever had a bad patch. Riot love the cockroach. So if you guys want free LP in the jungle role, Kha'Zix is the best solo carry jungler, but it's important to understand that there are a couple of build options you can go. So you can go this page I'm recommending just because it's probably easier to carry with, and that's the First Strike Prowler's Claw setup. But you can also consider going Conqueror with Goredrinker, because Goredrinker got buffed in 12.3, so you're getting more attack damage. For attack damage assassins, this becomes really interesting, because of course you care about attack damage, and Goredrinker is giving you enough to still one-shot champions, but it's also giving you tankiness and sustain, which you do kind of lack. But if you are well versed on the champion, there is no reason not to go the First Strike lethality setup. You will be killing champions before they even realize it, so Kha'Zix is the #1 jungler. Now let's head to the bot lane, guys, and talk about the 3 best AD carries first of all, and there were lots of changes to a number of ADCs in 12.5B, so this is going to be interesting. And coming in at #3, we have one of these champions, and this is Lucian. And I know that in solo queue, the win rates probably aren't going to do Lucian justice, but funnily enough, they kind of are here. If we look at this in Diamond and above, Lucian actually has, with this rune page anyway, a 55% win rate. But if we look to the right with these summoner spells, he only has a 50% win rate. But I don't want you guys to take heal. Please take Exhaust as your second summoner spell. It is by far the best, especially for Lucian, because you are so close range. If you get someone jumping on your head, you really need Exhaust to fend for yourself, and let's be honest, who can rely on their support to protect them? This is very important, but the buffs that came in, where you're getting a bigger scaling AD ratio in your Vigilance passive, and you're also getting more attack damage per level. This means in the late game, you're getting over 10 more AD. For an early game champion like Lucian to get the compensation in the late game, this is very big and makes your snowballing even more dangerous, because if you can get going, you're going to kill off more games on your own, so this is why Luce is #3. Now ahead of Lucian at #2, we have another AD carry who was buffed in 12.5B, and this is Draven. And what happened was that his base damage, well, it increased by 2, which doesn't sound amazing because lots of his abilities, I know they work off bonus attack damage. But remember, just because your base AD is going up, you're going to be hitting harder regardless, especially in the early game, which is really where it matters for Draven, because if you can get going a bit like Lucian, the game is going to end very quickly quickly because you're one of the few AD carries who deal so much damage in such a short period of time. So if one enemy champion is caught out, they are caught out and they are dead. It's not like you're playing Jinx or Caitlyn where the fights are probably going to be a bit more drawn out. This is why Draven is so deadly, and that's why we want to be going Eclipse with Essence Reaver and then Berserker's Grease, because lethality and the armor penetration passive from Eclipse enables us to one-shot pretty much anyone. Even if they do have armor, you will deal so much damage to them, and this is why Draven is number 2. But Draven and Lucian, 2 of the buffed ADCs in 12.5b, these two don't really compare to the number 1 AD carry, and for another patch, this is going to be Vayne in Season 12. Vayne with lethal tempo, it means she has 0 weaknesses. This rune, once you get it stacked, which should be easy because you will be building attack speed in your Q, this counts as a stack. So once you get those 6 auto attacks off, you get extra range, and at that point, you can even argue that Vayne is the best champion on the Rift because your typical short range, well, you don't have it at that point. Now, the final role, of course, we have to talk about, this is support. And for supports at the moment, it's very kind of juicy Season 12 because lots of supports are performing very well. But the 3 best, well, number 3, this is Senna. And Senna kind of got indirectly nerfed this patch because her best build before was going Locket of the Iron Solari with Redemption, which you can still go, but the Consecrate passive got nerfed, and also the active shield, this got decreased. So for Senna at the moment, the best build is to go with your run-of-the-mill Eclipse setup with Mirror Mana. Just like I said for Draven, the lethality and then the armor penetration, even the shield and also the passive from Eclipse, the movement speed, these are really valuable as well for Senna because they give you more kite ability. But this setup, I'm sure you're all aware of this by now, it's just too good on a champion who has a 20% slow in a Q, so Senna is still pretty brain dead. Just make sure in your rune page you're taking Revitalize. This is going to give you more power in terms of your Q because this is healing, and also your ultimate shield for your allied champions. But one support who's probably better suited for solo queue at the moment anyway, this is Blitzcrank filling the number 2 position. And for Blitzcrank, even though it recommends Locket of the Iron Solari here, which is nerfed, please go Shurelya's. Shurelya's, in my opinion anyway, because of the movement speed from the active and also the ability haste passive. So for each major item you get, you're getting ability haste. This is really important for Blitzcrank, getting more rocket grabs off, more overdrives off, so you can run around the map and roam and make plays for your team. That's what this champion is about. But as far as your rune page goes, just make sure, guys, to take Glacial against ranged squishy champions and take Aftershock against champions like Leona, Nautilus, all of these short-range, tanky, hard-engaged supports. That's very important, otherwise you are going to get blown up, even if you hook one of them into you. But the support who is performing at the highest level, better than anyone else, and it's kind of clear-cut, this is Janna. And ever since Riot updated this champion, she has been slaying the win rates, and just look at these stats. This is in Platinum and above. 15,000 matches, over a 54% win rate. You are joking. Just make sure as far as your summoner spells go, you're taking heal. Make your AD carry take exhaust or something else. Heal is so useful on Janna, especially in team fights as well. And because Janna has bypassed the Locket of the Iron Solari nerf because you are taking Shurelya's as your mythic item, we don't have to worry about this. So your value kind of increases just because other supports are a little worse off. So Janna is the number 1 support for 12.5b. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think of the 3 best champions, the list we have made for this video. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss any of our future daily Season 12 content. And until tomorrow's daily video, this has been the Jizz. Peace.